Hello, good morning, Northern California, Hawaii region. My name is Zach Younger. I'm your Regional Technology Director here for Northern California, Hawaii region. Also serve as a Master Faculty for Keller Williams University. And I am absolutely thrilled that you guys are all joining us here today. A couple quick housekeeping items about this training called Leading with Local with Facebook. This session is recorded, as you were so generously reminded by Zoom, and the recording will be available for all attendees and will be published. We will put it into a Google Drive. Also in the Google Drive, where you'll be able to access the recording for this session, I've got a Google Doc with my notes that I'm adding in throughout the session so that you'll have access to all of those notes, including some help articles and other helpful links that our incredible partner, Scott, is going to be sharing with us all here today. Now that that's out of the way, I can't wait for you guys to hear all of the tremendous information that Facebook has put together for us. At Keller Williams, we have incredible partners, and one of our most incredible partners, I would argue our most incredible partner, Facebook, has a lot of really great information. They pay attention to a lot of data about consumers and how they're reacting, how they're behaving, how they're interacting with businesses online, more specifically on Facebook and other partner platforms that they have. And so I've had the distinct pleasure of working with a gentleman named Scott Shapiro that you see here in our Zoom session that's going to be leading us through a conversation around how to best connect with your community, with your consumers, your sphere of influence, both online and offline, and how they're thinking, how they're behaving, and all that great stuff. Now, before I introduce Scott and let him introduce himself, I also want to bring up John Morris. Hey, John. John is my counterpart in the Maryland, DC region, an incredible colleague of mine. John's going to be helping leading some conversations with some insights based on our conversation. John, introduce yourself for anyone that doesn't know you.
Sure. John Morris. I am the Regional Growth and Technology Director for the Keller Williams Maryland, DC region, as well as KWU faculty. And like all of you guys on this call, I live actually in, or not all of you, some of you guys are fortunate enough to live in Hawaii, but I do live in Northern California, and I'm a broker associate here in Northern California, despite the fact that I work for the Keller Williams Maryland, DC region. So you have to really love technology, and the ability for us to be able to telecommute is a pretty powerful thing.
Yeah, so good. I'm so glad you're here with us. Now, let's get this thing started. I want you to open up the chat box if you haven't done so already and type in your name and where you hail from. Where do you represent? This is a tremendous opportunity. We have agents from all across Northern California and Hawaii region that are attending this live training. And you might just see a city or an area where you've got a lot of friends and family, and you might be able to create an incredible referral partnership by being in this live training here today. That said, also turn on your cameras. We have an incredible door prize that we're going to be giving away here today for those of you that are participating with cameras on, asking questions, typing into the chat box. Don't forget, if you do have questions, you can raise your digital hand inside Zoom. You're going to find that down at the bottom under reactions, where you can raise your hand. That'll bring you right to the top, and we'll be able to address any questions and support you with this conversation. So without further ado, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce you to my great friend and colleague, Scott Shapiro. Scott, introduce yourself, my friend.
Thanks, Zach. First and foremost, I think the two gentlemen on the screen they become very good friends of mine. We work collaboratively together, and part of what you guys will see in the Northern California and Hawaii region today is a new narrative that I've been working on at Facebook. I've been at the company for 9 years, first working on our financial services team. So working with large advertisers such as Quicken Loans, Wells Fargo, Visa. And about 5 or 6 years ago, when we started our real estate team, my boss, who was my boss on the financial services team, moved over and Volin told me, you're going to learn about real estate, and we're going to figure out how to help folks in this industry together. It's been an awesome, amazing journey for the past 5 or 6 years. And Keller Williams is a key partner of ours. We value our relationship. I am I'm an expat from Northern California as of last year. I grew up in the Bay Area, lived in Oakland for the last 10 years, and now I'm in Austin. And part of what's really exciting about being in Austin is the ability to have conversations with leaders at corporate at Keller Williams. So just down the road, about 9 miles. So everybody from product to L&D to maps to labs, we really get the opportunity to have a close collaborative relationship. It wasn't the only reason I moved to Austin, but it was certainly a very big benefit of being here. So pleasure to be here with you guys, and really excited to walk you through the content today, because very few people have seen this, because it's part of a task force that I alluded to that I've been working on across several industries that have national to local connections similar to real estate. So working with our partners on our automotive team, our QSR restaurants team, our insurance team, our travel team, believe it or not, there's a lot of local activation from national to local. So this is something that is new. You guys are getting one of the few, I think I was talking to a counterpart the other day. I think we've had one of these with John last week. I think one of my counterparts on auto did this. So you're like the third or fourth people to actually see this presentation that we're going to walk through today. So, Zach, you are.
It's very exciting, Scott. I apologize, Scott.
Okay.
Now you have a little bit of history in the Keller Williams family in Northern California, Hawaii region as well.
I do. My dad was a team lead in Pleasanton, Livermore, back in the late, I guess, aughts is what we're saying, and then now I guess we have to call it the teens. So I think I'm trying to think back, 05, 06 through I think 12, 13. So he was active in the Pleasanton community, Keller Williams. I got a care package for my dad. I was actually laughing the other day. He's going through a lot of old photos, and sure enough, there was one with him and Gary, and that kind of made me chuckle that he put that into the care package. So a family of folks who have been part of Keller Williams, and it certainly brings home a lot of what we're doing together. I'm proud of the partnership that we've built. We have a long way to go to do all the things we want to do, but we are on a great trajectory. And again, hope that over the next hour, whatever time we have together, that this is helpful for your business, both from a paid perspective and an organic perspective. And one thing, Zach, I just want to kind of tell folks before we get started is, I know we have a lot of COVID fatigue with just, a lot of just facts and factoids coming at people. The way I want to kind of present this material to the audience, there's consumer insights on real estate, but there's a lot of insight coming on how consumers are going to act coming out of the pandemic. So what I want people to kind of harness today is the idea of, we're not looking backwards. What I want you to do is take this information and look forwards. And so I want to acknowledge that, I myself, we've been on a lot of internal meetings about what COVID has meant to the consumer journey and to real estate, but I think this is forward-thinking material. So I just wanted to set that groundwork so everybody can kind of take a breath and go, the Facebook guy isn't hammering me about COVID. It's more, we're coming out of it. What do you guys need to know for your local businesses to excel?
So good.
That's really
so great.
Quick,
Thank
Zach,
you. Yes, John.
I was just going to say, really quick, a fun fact that Scott and I just found out a couple of weeks ago is that I'm actually in his dad's downline.
I have another fun fact. Bob was my first team leader. So my first job was front desk for Pleasanton, and Bob was my team leader.
Oh gosh. And Bob and I are looking more and more like each other. He's rapidly de-aging and working as rapidly aged me. And so we're sort of morphing into one amorphous human being. I'm seeing Bob next week. He's coming out for his first visit to Austin, but it's great to be in the region. It's great that people know him, hopefully.
And love him.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm biased. I'm of course being his son, but I've learned a lot from him in the business world, and he's just, I think he still loves Keller Williams, and so we do get a lot of fun conversations. He's always kind of like, "What are you guys doing over there? What are you doing with Keller?" He's never a conversation that goes by that he's not asking me that question. So, all right, so guys, I'm going to get started because we have a lot of content to get through, a lot of interesting, fun things. I'm going to see how well I do with technology, which is always a 50-50 crapshoot. So I'm going to try this and hope that everything turns out right. All righty, here we're going to put this into full screen mode. Zach, I'm going to ask you, can you see the lovely opening slide leading with local?
It is
Yes.
perfect, Scott.
Okay. Step one done. It's only Wednesday, but maybe I'll crack a beer later just to celebrate the fact that I got this to work. All right. So obviously the title sort of says it all about what we're going to talk about today, which is we're really focused on the national brand, so Keller Williams, KWRI, the technology that they're providing through Command, and how does that scale from national to local? How do we get that to work from an organization that has well over 190,000 agents globally, and then thinking about what does that mean to each of you in your various neighborhoods? I saw different folks pop up, some from Palo Alto, San Jose, Fremont. I'm not as familiar with Hawaii, but I know that we've got a lot of folks there. So again, everything I want to tell you about today is for you to take and harness to grow your business. That is the overarching theme. We're here to grow business. We're here to grow GCI. We're here to grow sales, both on an organic and paid side. So the first thing, I think the framework we need to understand is that people hold power. And what I mean by that is, in the past, when we had a consumer journey, if we think about 20 years ago, before the real explosion of the internet, you, a real estate professional, would hold the listing, you would hold the information. The consumer wouldn't be able to find out that much leading into their real estate journey. This little doohickey in my hand has completely flipped the script. We're going to talk a lot about mobile because that is really the way that people are engaging. And that today is why people hold power in the consumer journey, in their real estate journey. It's because obviously the mobile device has become ubiquitous and the most important device they can have. Why does this matter for Facebook and Instagram? Before I get into stats, the great majority of our traffic, the great majority of how we reach consumers is still done on a mobile device. And we're going to walk through some statistics. What I want you to think about is that Facebook and Instagram are tools. They're not social tools. Blow that out of the water. Next time you hear somebody talk about social media and all that, say, time out. I actually heard a guy at Facebook, and what he talked about is being excellent in mobile marketing and mobile communication. So don't think about the social metrics. Don't worry about algorithms. We'll get into some of that in our Q&A. But think about what mobile does and think about it from the importance of that's where our consumers are. That's where we want to break through. That's why this matters so much. It's simple. We have to follow the consumer behavior to where they are. And we'll get into certain applications, why they matter, and how, again, the consumers lead us to these points. So the first thing, why does it matter to be top of mind to your buyers? 50% of buyers, when they're ready to execute a real estate transaction, only talk with one agent before deciding who to work with, okay? So this came out of a Zillow report from a couple of years ago. This is something that we've seen at Facebook as well. Staying top of mind, making sure you use our paid and organic tools to do so, using Command, and the tools we'll get into deeper with John and Zach on why it's so important to use Command. We need to make sure you're front and center in front of your consumers, and the consumer is on the mobile device. The second piece to why this is so important is, yes, people search for home and rental properties on mobile devices. 79% of homeowners who were actually surveyed in the same Zillow report have used an online resource at one point or another in their research. So again, understanding that the mobile device is the primary way that your consumer is actually consuming media. We're going to get into that a little bit in a moment about media moments. Super important to know that that device is the linchpin to anything you want to do from a communication and a marketing perspective. The last thing I want you guys to really focus on is the stat over, it's in my lower right-hand corner. So hopefully if I'm thinking about this as a mirror, it's also in your lower right-hand corner, which is the 76% number, okay? So the first thing says 76% of millennials turn to mobile to search. Of course, that's not a surprise, shouldn't be a surprise. I think what's surprising is the percentage of baby boomers and silent generation renters and home buyers that use mobile. 35% of baby boomers and 24% of silent generation consumers in real estate, they're using mobile to find both homes for sale or potentially rental properties or any number of different permutations. So the idea that mobile is only a game to hit the young buyer. Oh, I've got this and I want to hit this type of buyer. I can't do this on mobile. Absolutely put that out of your thought process. I'll use Bob, my dad, as an example. You know, he's active on Facebook, he's active on Instagram, he's a very active mobile user. The great majority of our communication day to day is coming through messengers. So think about that. You know, again, he's someone who would fit that bill that, you know, you might not think he would be active on a mobile device. He is, and we're seeing that across those generation cuts. So I want to make sure you guys walk away understanding that, because it's so important how you think about this versus, you know, where you think the consumer is. And I know that we all have decisions to make in our marketing and communication to consumers. So just think about it in the terms of, where are they? How do I need to find them? They're here. They're on mobile. They're on Facebook and Instagram. This is why some of this actually is really important to think about, in addition to what we just showed you. So a stat on the left is actually incorrect. Since COVID, we've gone up to now 4 hours a day being spent on a mobile device. So that stat is a little bit outdated, but what isn't is 1 in 3 media minutes will be spent on mobile this year. What that means is not work moments, but media moments, streaming Netflix, being on Facebook, on Instagram, watching long form video on our platforms, YouTube, Peacock, you name it. We're seeing more and more content being digested on a mobile device. Partly, simply put, there are 2 reasons. One, devices are getting better. The screens are larger, the resolution is better, the experience is better. Second, we're seeing, obviously, with the advent and the deployment of 5G networks, that now connectivity outside of Wi-Fi is so much better, that you can be out in public and consume content, whether you're on a Wi-Fi network or not, and actually get it without the spinny wheel. And so that's a really important piece when we think about video strategy, when we think about content strategy, and which we'll get into. So again, media moments, super important to understand. The other thing I want you guys to take away on the cell phone, mobile device conversation is this: 8 in 10 people have interacted with a local business on mobile. That was a study commissioned by our Facebook IQ group. This is a group that Facebook employs to do market research. So what we found through the United States is that 80% of people surveyed are interacting with their local business on a mobile phone. But here's one that's really important. A lot of times, one of the big questions that I would get going to different trade shows, different conventions, is this misnomer around the Facebook for Business page versus your personal page. We're going to get into why a business page matters, a little bit deeper context as to, you know, why we tell agents, team leads all the time, please don't use your personal page to conduct business. Frankly, you're a business. That's the real estate is the business. Separate the two. There's a variety of reasons with the tools we offer, but here's one for you. 3 in 4 Facebook users in the United States search for a local Facebook business page at least once a week. So one of the things that people don't think about with it when it comes to Facebook is the amount of searching that happens on our platform. So again, think about this. They're looking not for the personal page. They don't know you from a personal page. They know you from a business page. And so keep that in mind, that business pages, how you keep them kept up, the content you have on them. We talked about it last week in the session that John and Zach and I had. Don't have the mobile store front be empty, right? You know, you walk into a store and it has nothing on the shelves or on the walls. You tend to kind of go, whoop. I don't know if you guys can picture the Simpsons gif where Grandpa Simpson walks into the bar, puts his hat on, and sees Bart at the bar and walks right out. That's the one I always think about, pop culture moment. But again, we'll talk a little bit about content and organic versus paid and where it fits. But again, just know people are searching for business pages to find businesses, to find local business. You're a local business. You are the CTO, CEO, CMO, all things of your own business. So keep that in mind, that business page and making sure you have really good content is such an important part of the journey.
Okay.
So, all right. So I want to take you guys through a little bit of the changing consumer. So connecting locally, this matters. Oh, somebody's off mute. I can hear him in the background. Not sure who it is, but can hear some chatter in the background. Ah, awesome. Thanks, Zach. So a couple things I want to ground for everybody is that one of the big things coming out of COVID is the importance of shopping locally. And I think in a world where we've seen iBuyer models come up, impersonal companies getting into the business of selling and buying real estate, local connections still matter. And so a couple of things that we found over the last year, and this was through the pandemic and where the consumer direction is going, is 42% of online communities are actually connected by location. So while Facebook groups have grown, and we're going to walk through why a Facebook group is important and what it can do for your business, just know that connection by geography is super important. It's not just common topics that we want. We want to be connected to people locally near us. Real life example, I mentioned I moved to Austin last year. During the snowstorm, we used a Facebook group to communicate with neighbors, to get resources, 4 days, no power, shutting off the water, turning off this, turning off that. Community matters, and Facebook groups and connecting locally is one way for your real estate business to stand out. And it's a way to do it for free. Obviously, Facebook groups are free. Your participation in a group is free. Do more than real estate groups on Facebook. Get involved in the community. That's what people are looking for. 50% of folks in a local market, they are connected by their interest. But I think, again, think about that location matters. And then I think the last thing that's really important to know is that consumers have supported and want to support local businesses during the pandemic. Our own shopping behavior for my family, a great example is, we now exclusively shop for books, me and my daughter, at our local independent bookstore, not going through chains, because we want those local businesses, those Main Street businesses, to survive and thrive. So again, that's also for you guys in real estate to know. That's, frankly, who you guys are. Local connection, personal connection to the community, that matters. We're seeing more engagement, mobile engagement increased. I alluded to this in the opening, but during COVID, we saw more stay-at-home orders, more things happening through the mobile device. Real estate's a little bit different, obviously, because it's a long-term, there's nothing more expensive than what they're going to purchase through a house, second being a car, probably. So a little bit different on the stay-at-home orders, but I think it's an indication, again, of consumers are using mobile, they're engaging with mobile. We've seen usage go up an hour a day from that first study. That's really important, because I think a lot of people thought at first, we're on our laptops, we're working from home. Are we going to be on our mobile devices as much as we were before? The answer is absolutely. It's just basically intrinsic consumer behavior right now that we need to make sure we're on top of. People are changing how they browse and how they buy. So going out, obviously, so now what we're seeing is that 78% of purchases were done online. That's not a surprise given the last year. I think there are a couple of stats here that are relevant, though, for real estate. First is that 27% are doing more pre-store research. So again, going back to that first slide, that people hold the power, while that's a little bit different from a retail perspective, it still holds true for real estate. They are doing more research before they connect with agents, before they make a decision to move forward. So again, thinking about how do you break through, how do you stay relevant, how do you have frequency in front of your consumer is super important. And then kind of in a comical moment, I want to give you guys a new acronym. If you haven't heard it, it's BOPIS, buy online, pick up in store. I will admit, I am fully transparent. I was sitting in this task force meeting talking about this content, and somebody started chitter chattering about BOPIS and BOPIS and BOPIS, and they kept going on. And I finally was the guy to say, can we call it timeout? What's BOPIS? And so it is buy online, pick up in store. What we're seeing is obviously that people are buying products online. They're going to the physical location to pick them up. I think that that will be one of the relevant things that comes out of the pandemic that we're going to see stay. The other will be virtual live broadcasts for real estate. I think that the virtual open home is going to be something, and Zach and John and I can kind of nerd out and talk to you guys during Q&A about what we think about how that's going to change things. Already has, but I think that will be a legacy behavior that we carry through. A couple things that are important to know, just switching gears, talking more about Facebook now. I wanted to give you guys just the general context of the research that we're finding. Now I'll give you a little bit more context on the Facebook side. It's a platform for real estate shopping. This is a wordy slide, but I'm going to try my best to kind of condense this. Basically, people are more likely to buy from a brand that they follow or see on Facebook or Instagram than all the other networks that would be considered social combined. So that includes YouTube, Pinterest, Twitter, Snapchat, LinkedIn, Reddit. Really important to understand that the products that we build are to give The advertiser, an excellent experience so that it's done mobilely, it's done easily, it looks good, it's standardized. You know, we don't have a bunch of pop-ups and a bunch of things that just drive people nuts. On the flip side, we also want to make sure that our community is getting relevant advertising, because otherwise, you know, that also creates a thrashy experience for the person on the other end. So again, just thinking through that, we've built platforms that are designed to encourage connection to brands and connection to advertisers is a big piece of our Facebook strategy. And then on the organic side, another relevant statistic for you all to walk away with is online behavior and posting on social. So others posting, so we're in that generational transfer, right, where millennials are getting into the home market for the first time. That's leading to more and more influence. So if I see my friend has bought a house, that begins the influencing of my social network, kind of down funnel. So, you know, if it's 5 people see it, 65% of those 5 people are going to be influenced by, hey, Scott's buying a house. Maybe we should be considering buying a house. So just pieces of information for you to take away that's really important for you to know just on consumer behavior, on trends, on where we see the industry going. I'm going to flip over now, and I'm going to talk a little bit about best practices, how they apply on marketing yourself on Facebook. So this is more about the paid advertising side of the house. I think it's really important before I even start to talk about the relationship that we have with Keller Williams and with, in particular, Command and campaigns. We are fully immersed, more than people know, in talking to leadership, into product, into L&D, into maps, into all of these ways in which the leadership team, the technology team, the product teams at Keller Williams are thinking about how do we build the best advertising solution for our agents, and how do we combine that with the power of Facebook and Instagram. And I'll talk a little bit more about how we're doing that together. But first, I want to make sure that we kind of dispel some myths. I think where these came from, frankly, is just having been, like a lot of you, to as many conferences as were going on before the pandemic, you start to hear common themes. And so we wanted to extrapolate a couple and talk about them and how it relates really to paid advertising and why Command is so important. First, there's a myth that people go, I don't even know if my Facebook ads are working. And if all you judge it on is, you know, 1 or 2 metrics, it's really hard to understand, is it working? Well, the reality is it does work, and that you can see if your ads are working. The dashboards in Command are super robust. They're super easy to understand. How many impressions did I generate? How many leads did that come out with? What are the things that I can do by converting those folks into smart plans? There's so much reporting in the interface that should be able to tell you, what did my investment do from a digital marketing perspective? What was the yield? And how do I continue to replicate the most successful campaigns so that I can have subsequently future campaigns that are just as successful? So Keller has done a really great job of making sure that this stuff is really easy upfront. You don't have to search long and hard for it to find out if your ads are hitting metrics that matter. The second myth that we see, status updates and organic posts are as effective as paid ads. They're not. Organic posting is important. To the earlier point, don't have an empty storefront. That's really important, but it's also interesting to note that what we see is typically of a page's followers, about 3% see content that's organic versus paid. Think about it this way. Think about your own usage of our platforms. As you guys can see, I'm surrounded by sports memorabilia. So, you know, anytime I start interacting on a weekend with Formula One racing or New York Mets baseball or soccer, Facebook is seeing that as an indication that I'm raising my hand that I want more of that content. So folks are not necessarily in market and they're not necessarily engaging with your content. It only means that the consumer is just simply not in that moment organically. The breakthrough is paid advertising. The breakthrough is, like any other form of media, how do you find more people than your followers? Again, if you have 50 followers, 100 followers, 200 followers, why wouldn't we want to hit thousands of people within the radius we can with our listing ads, our ads about our services, our expertise, why they should use you? It's a far bigger universe to hit than an organic posting. Lastly, big, huge myth. Boosting a post is the same as an ad. It is a form of advertising, but it's extremely rudimentary and it's lightweight. The difference And this is a really important point. So if anybody on this call came to me and said, okay, Scott, I have $10 to advertise. Okay. Should I put $10 into Facebook Ads Manager and try to figure this out for myself? Should I put $10 into boosting a post? Or should I put $10 towards command? 100 out of 100 times, I'm going to tell you to put that $10 into command. A couple of reasons why. First, you can't do lead generation with boosting a post. You can't hit certain objectives that we care most about that will grow your business. So it's a lightweight form of advertising, but that's the key. It's lightweight. It's not a bad way to advertise. It's just not the most optimal way. And because we've worked with Keller Williams on command to make advanced advertising easy, I would say if you've got that $10, don't mess around with Ads Manager, because that's for everybody. It can get really confusing really quickly. Now, unfortunately, we can't build advertising interfaces for every type of industry, right? Can't do it for real estate versus QSR restaurants versus autos. So that's why we work with our partners at Keller Williams. They've invested in the technology to do all the back end work on command to make it easy for you. Best example I can give you is your smartphone. Whether you bought recently an iPhone or an Android, when you get it out of the box and you turn it on, it's super easy to operate. But that doesn't mean it's not a complex piece of machinery. Command and a lot of the work we do in campaigns, that's the magic of what happens. That's why we're on so many product calls, so that you guys don't have to make those decisions, so that we know the right things to actually put into the machine so that your outcomes are the best. I think it's important to note that command is part of a new initiative that we've launched as of March. We've actually called out who are the best people in the real estate space, both from a brokerage perspective and or a third-party perspective, who's building decent and good product. We see hundreds, if not thousands of companies claiming that they do Facebook. What does that mean? What does it mean for you? Oftentimes it means you're paying somebody to do the wrong thing. And so this program is our way of saying, actually, no, we've vetted a certain amount of companies. We work with a certain amount of companies and providers. We stand behind their solution. Command has been one since day one, actually. And when you think about it, the biggest value proposition behind command and campaigns is that we are collaborating to understand and give best practices to the teams at Keller Williams who build the technology to enable you to do your advertising simple, easy, and effective. Unfortunately, there's only one of me. Our team is small, so you guys have us outnumbered by a lot. And I could do webinars every day, but simply put, the work we do with command, the work we do with the technology teams, the work we do with your regional tech trainers, people like Zach, people like John, that's how we can help encourage you to do things with best practices in mind. The other piece that's really important to know about why command is so important is because it does full funnel marketing. That's something we're going to continue to explore and work on. It's a passion project for me. I want to take real estate for you guys from just listing photos to so much more, where you can talk about your expertise, where you can talk about the value proposition you bring into your communities, your knowledge. So we're working really hard with across both our org, Keller Williams, thinking about how do we take not just bottom of the funnel, but how do we help you fill mid and top funnel metrics? And that's part of being in top provider.
Hey, Scott, I apologize for interrupting. A couple things I just wanted to bring up.
Yeah, go for it.
One, it was a massive aha for me when you shared that statistic, or the fact that boosting posts are not nearly as effective as running an ad. When we first met about 2 years ago at a mega camp, you had mentioned that, and it blew me away, because prior to that, I was recommending people to boost posts because it was such a simple way to get exposure. And when you explained that the ads, that the algorithm is working in your favor when you run an ad and you're getting in front of people and actually capturing information, it really changed my mindset around where to put energy and even minimal dollar spent in advertising as opposed to boosting posts. It's huge. And the fact that you'll tell an associate 100 times out of 100, instead of running an ad directly through Facebook Ads Manager, because that's what a lot of realtors do, it's actually more effective to do it through command because of this partnership. And so it's really exciting. The last aha I want to share before I let you jump back in.
Yeah.
If you guys aren't paying attention to the slides that Scott is sharing with us and the creative on the slides, you're missing a tremendous opportunity. Again, you're going to have access to all of these slides in a Google Drive that you'll have. It would behoove you to start taking images similar to what you're seeing in the PowerPoint today and leveraging that in social posts. And we're going to talk about best practices at the end. We're going to open it up for Q&A, and we'll dive into some best practices and some action items inside command. But I just wanted to bring that up really quickly. Pay attention to the visuals that you're seeing on these slides because they work and they connect with your consumers. Scott, I apologize.
Yeah, no apologies. I mean, the dialogue is great, and that's what we want. I think it's important, Zach was bringing up a point, boosting versus command. One of the things that we've put as criteria to be recognized as a top provider, which command is one of, is that your ads need to run across the entire scope of Facebook and Instagram. Again, if you boost a post, you're missing out on Instagram. Not only are you missing out on Instagram, but look at the lower right-hand side. These are all the places that consumers are spending time that if you boost versus using the command tool, you miss. And I guarantee you're probably going to miss them if you do Ads Manager. We built some technology in so that it's called an automatic placement. Basically, let's say Zach is a power Facebook Stories user. Let's say John is spending a ton of time in our free Facebook Marketplace environment, which, by the way, you can put your listing in for free. You can actually list it if you want as another distribution channel, but you can also have ads in Marketplace. So let's say John's there, and let's say I'm a power video user and I like long form video. I nerd out on my House of Highlights NBA stuff, my Inside the NBA, my soccer. Well, there's ways for video to run mid-roll, just like YouTube, just like other platforms. You're probably not getting that or know of that or would even think of that if you're in Ads Manager trying to do this on your own. And you certainly wouldn't get that if you're doing a boosted post. So think about it this way. We talked about the consumer before, where they're spending so much different time and there's different things going on. One of the reasons why you want to use command is, again, take out bias. You might think that you should only be in this place on Facebook because I know this consumer. 9 times out of 10, it's going to throw you a curveball, and you may find that the best place to find them is on Instagram. And that's where machine learning and a lot of the work we've done, command and campaigns plus Facebook, they go to find the consumer. You don't have to do anything. You place the ad, the technology is wired up. And that's why I use the example of the cell phone. Again, you turn it on, it's easy. And so you might think, oh, that's just too easy. Trust me, if we broke this thing apart, we'd find components and widgets and gadgets and things we'd never want to touch. And I think command, if you want to think about it that way, another great example is an electric car, right? Go in, I press go, I put my climate control, my Spotify, my GPS in. Okay, crack open a Tesla, millions of parts, right? So just don't be caught off guard by simplicity. Doesn't necessarily mean it's not complex. I think there's a misnomer. And certainly just because campaigns has been designed really well, that's a credit to the team at Keller Williams to design a slick, easy, good piece of technology that actually does all the hard stuff for you. I'll kind of zap through this really quick. We want to make sure that also creative formats are being used. We've learned so many things through the journey with real estate. Yes, static images are great, but carousel ads, you'll notice here, this is a story. We'll talk about this more. I don't know if you can see me doing the circle with my mouse on it, but the learn more button is the Facebook lead form, which is such a great way to capture information from your consumer in a mobile device, done easily, done effectively. All right, so I'm going to kind of transition and talk a little bit more about consumers. Couple of things. There are 5 ways I think about Facebook being a tool that you can use for your business. So this is paid and organic. So I'm going to kind of change it up a little bit. First is just scale. We'll talk about our scale, how we reach the right people. Obviously, we're talking to folks in the Bay Area and Hawaii, so we'll think about that, just kind of how that comes together. Efficiency. I'm going to talk about efficiency both from an ad spend perspective and a time perspective, which I think is something that gets lost a lot in why command is such a great tool, the time of the time you have to put into advertising and all the different permutations of how complex digital advertising can be, again, taken away because Command does that for you. Versatility, community. I want to spend some time talking about community and some ways that I think you guys can really break out in front of your local communities. Commerce, we're going to give you a couple of tips on that as well. And then from there, I think we'll wrap up and have Q&A. And I know John and Zach are going to do some things about, show you some things about Command. So scale, this is just basically some great information, you know, a lot of pop-ups here, a lot of markets. I think the biggest thing we wanted to show in this is that, yes, Facebook reaches large communities, the obvious large cities, but it's also a tool for your local community. The one that sticks in my head is just, you know, somebody mentioned they were from Fremont, and yes, Fremont's part of the Bay Area, but you know, Fremont is different than South City or Daly City, right? And so each local community really is its own nebulous, its own place. And I think the way to think about this is Facebook reaches those people in a way that is effective and at scale. So here, you know, these are big numbers. These are national numbers. So 220 million Americans using Facebook each month on mobile, or every day 167 million. Think about this. That's the audience of the Super Bowl, the Grammys, the Oscars, and the opening ceremony of the Olympics combined. I mean, that's national, but what that should show you is that about 70 to 80% of the US population is on Facebook each and every day. And what that correlates to is if you're in Fremont, if you're in Palo Alto, if you're in Pleasanton. Sorry, Zach, I don't know all the cities in Hawaii, so I feel bad. I feel like I'm missing out on folks. It's not intentional. I grew up in the Bay Area, so I know it well. The takeaway here is that 70 to 80% of your community is on our platform every day on a mobile device. That's the biggest thing you can take away, because it's important to know, again, we want to reach our consumers, right? We want to get new business. We want to retain business. We want to grow business. So one of the things that we talked about just now is the use of machine learning. Again, fancy way of saying Command plus Facebook, machines talking to machines, data talking to data, outcomes being better than you on your own. I don't know how many people nerd out on this the way I do. Every time around this time of year, I watch the Tour de France. It is really hard for the breakaway riders to break away from the pack. The peloton always catches you. More data equals better and optimal performance. Yes, obviously somebody always wins the leg or the race, but I think of yourself trying to go against the wind on your own, try to learn this on your own in Ads Manager, or boosting posts with all that headwind. All of the tools that Keller Williams gives you, it's like the peloton. It's group and it's power of data and it's power of accumulation, and it's power of machine learning. And that's how you win. A lot of folks talk about the algorithm. The algorithm is very simple. The more data we put in with the right outcomes predicted and asked for, the better yield we can give your business. Simply put, just to kind of dispel, like I get that every time. I'm like, tell me about the algorithm. The algorithm is simple. Tell it what you want it to do, put a lot of great data in, and let that machine learning flow to get the right consumer at the right time to take the action you want. Efficiency, it's the second pillar. This is one I really want you guys to take away from, which is when you put the idea of you are your own brand, sales lift can come from good creative. So again, what we were talking about before, what Zach was pointing out, how to fill the screen, how to make sure your images are right, those things can help lift people and give sales lift. So again, just know that like creative is a big piece of it. It creates and gets efficiency. So this is a fancy way of saying, if you are looking at pictures of a home, you want to put the listing up, make sure you put the best looking images up. If you're out there and you want to have content and you want to talk to your consumers, make sure that you're not maybe doing it inside your house. Go out to the park, go to Main Street, talk to people in those environments. Really good creative can actually correlate people to realize, whoa, that's you. You're a leader in the marketplace. You're doing something that's really unique and different and interesting. The other thing I want to make sure people think about is there's cost efficiency. And we've talked about the cost efficiency with Keller. Keller, if you guys have read the Outfront magazine, it has a chock full of statistics about our combined delivery, what lead generation has been able to do through Command on Facebook and Instagram. Zach, I think I just looked at one, I think it was for Q1. So I don't know if you want to circulate that. John, same thing. I don't know if you guys circulate that widely. but there was a really great article about just the efficiency of what we do together from our program. The other thing I would say for folks to take away from an efficiency perspective is time. One of the things that we heard time and again in the last couple of years was the struggle that agents, team leads, even heads of market centers, if you're putting in your own advertising, how hard that is from a time perspective. Command takes a lot of that off your plate. And that's a beauty of efficiency back. So it's not just, did my ads work and did we drive consumers? But wait a minute, instead of spending 2 or 3 hours a week or a day trying to do social media advertising, I could do this in 5 minutes. That gives me back another hour and a half to go return calls, do the things I need to do, be out in the community, drive my business forward. So efficiency is not just the time or not just the money you spend, it's the time you spend. And that's a big piece of what we wanted to do collaboratively with Keller, was give you guys back time, not to be social media experts, but to be able to place really effective advertising and get on with your day and do everything else you need to do to drive your business forward. Versatility is another pillar we're seeing. Again, I think we all know this. People have changed behavior through the pandemic. It's going to change coming out of the pandemic. I think here, the thing you want is build a nimble local strategy. One of the things that we want is for you guys to become your own voice. And so what you'll see here is, reduce the reliance on national media, adapt quickly. Your market in your community is far different than the one that's maybe 30 miles away. So again, think about it in this case in point. You're the expert in your community. You know it better than anybody else. Be nimble, be frankly in front of folks, both paid with a mix of organic, mix them together. I'm not saying only do one, only do the other, mix them together, find out what works, experiment. Does paid advertising through command, when you're talking about market conditions in your local community, does that drive more lead generation than just putting up a listing? Is it you talking on a Friday night because band concerts have come back or a new coffee shop is open? Those are things that you can experiment with from a content perspective, to be nimble, to speak to the value proposition you have, to speak to the value proposition of your community. Why would I want to move into your community? You do know that. State that, talk about it, be nimble, be fast, be quick, use it with frequency. It engages the consumer. They want to know these things, especially today as we, think about a great migration. I'm sure you guys know it far better than me. Working from home, we're all changing where we're living. We don't necessarily have to live in certain communities anymore to do our jobs. So there's a lot of opportunity to speak, not just about that particular listing, but about your expertise in your community. Be nimble. And that leads into community. It's a huge piece, it's a huge point. Here are ways that we suggest using our platform that you build a mobile storefront. First, make sure your Facebook business page is up to date. Make sure the address is right, the hours are right, have content. It doesn't all have to be paid. If you're out on a Friday night and the band concert's going on, show that off. Do interviews with local business leaders, do interviews with local religious leaders, your school principal. This is all content that grounds you to the community and brings you whole. Trust me, nobody knows the local community better than real estate agents. It's certainly not the owner of the auto, the Ford dealer. It's probably not the insurance agent. It's probably not the owner of the pizza joint. You guys are in front of all these different places and people. Use that to your advantage. The second thing, Keller Williams has done an incredible job of using our lead ads ad unit. It's a great way to communicate and get information from the consumer. Again, then use that to have a communication, a free communication using Messenger, real identity. Don't use the SMS where who's that phone number from? I don't know that phone number, but I certainly remember I saw Zach's listing and actually I put in that lead form. Oh yeah, hey, Zach's actually reaching out to me. Have a conversation. Use video. Use your community to show video. Just go out and do it. At some point, rip the Band-Aid. Find the content that works right for you. A lot of real estate agents that are really great top producers and really use our platforms to the best of their ability, they use video and they use stories. They expand kind of how they talk to the consumer, and it's really engaging. And again, no one's expecting a Steven Spielberg production. people just want to understand what's going on in the community, who you are, what your expertise is, and what you can bring to them as a consumer. The last thing I'll say on this is I would highly recommend, and again, just full disclosure, I don't get a set of steak knives or a trip to Bermuda for promoting Facebook groups. They're free. What I would say though is that membership in US Facebook groups grew throughout the pandemic by about 15%. My one recommendation is don't be isolated just into real estate groups. Find other places within the community so you have a voice and a presence. Do what needs to be done in a group that's just about Keller Williams or just about real estate in your local community, but also participate and be part of other groups. Again, it's just a great way. It's a free way. It's a no-cost way to be in front of people, speaking about your community, being an expert, being an advocate, being somebody that they can trust. Costs you nothing. So we've talked about the mobile storefront. I think you guys have that. One last thing on community, I would say is, make sure you bring a voice of local pride and local empathy. And I think, again, people are really looking for that. People are looking a little bit less about you and about where they want to be. And I think that's one thing that we've seen. Test those messages. If you want to test that I'm a top producer, okay, that might be one message, but also test a message of, hey, I'm John, I'm Zach, I'm Scott, and I'm here at XYZ coffee shop, and they're back open, welcoming you for business. You want to get out from working from home, come here, blah, 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 blah. And this is, by the way, part of downtown fill in the community. These are ways you can have real conversations and build that mobile storefront. That's great organic content. So when somebody goes to your Facebook page, business page, and they're looking for you, that's how you fill the shelf. That's how we have stuff on the walls. And lastly, commerce. This is evolving from the Facebook perspective. You may have read or heard stories about Instagram shops, Facebook shops. Our team is doing exploratory work on what does that mean for real estate. We're not there yet, but I think, again, what we've done on e-commerce sites, if you think about maybe purchases you've made on Instagram or Facebook, we've made it really easy. And I think one of the things that we want to try to solve over the next year is, where does this fit into the real estate journey? Is there a fit for this in the real estate journey? Can we do work with Keller Williams to bring this to life for you guys as agents and then your end consumers? I think the net messaging here is we're trying to reduce friction for consumers. And if we can do that through commerce and mobile, that's the direction that the platforms are going. So I'm just going to wrap it up with this. I think just, be engaged in your community. Think about all the tools in your toolbox. So from a Facebook business page, you get a free platform, a free way to, promote yourself, promote your community, promote your expertise. It's a free messaging platform, a unified inbox. So think about using Messenger, real identity. The consumer will know who you are and who your business is, far more effective than SMS text. And then on the paid ad side, think about how you integrate all the pieces of your business into Command. How do you put your CRM in to target people? How do you take some of those leads and build smart plans? There's so many ways in which these tools collaborate to drive business results. We're extremely proud of the work we've done. We've got a long way to go. We have a saying at Facebook, the journey is only 1% done. I would say it's 1% done with Keller Williams, just because I hold us to a leadership and innovation role. But to date, we're extremely proud of the collaboration and the tools, extremely proud of the relationships we've built with leaders such as Zach and John. I mean, you guys, I'm telling you, you look across the industry, you're so blessed and fortunate to have your RTT, your regional check trainers. I mean, the investment is there. Trust me, we've worked with a lot in the industry, and that's not always the case. So again, if you walk away from this and you have questions, know that those gentlemen and women are combining with our forces and our teams to bring about, hopefully, information to ship to you on the street so you can use our platforms effectively. Last thing, we're here to grow your business. I think that's the one thing I want everybody to walk away with. So we want your paid advertising to be great to grow your business. We want your organic presence to be great to grow your business. We want your messaging and communication strategy to be great to grow your business. So that is what we are here to do. And Zach and John, as always, just thanks for the time. Hope this was helpful. And I'll throw it back to you guys, because I think you're going to kind of do a little bit more on the Command side.
Absolutely, Scott. Thank you so much. Great information. I mentioned in the chat box for those of you attending, how are you going to take this information and go back and pour into the people in your sphere of influence that are small business owners or maybe even large business owners? When you help other people grow their business, you'll have referrals for years. And so don't just apply this to your business, share this information with other people that can grow their business that way as well. Shortly, John and I are going to show you a bunch of things that you can do inside Command to take action, how to build your storefront, where to get content, how to leverage Command to build an ad. We're going to show you that here shortly. And yet first, want to just open it up. Do you have any questions for Scott specifically around any of the information or the studies that Scott had shared with before we open up Command and show you some best practices with content? You can raise your digital hand or go ahead and just unmute yourself.
Don't be shy. I will try to answer honestly. And if I don't have the answer, I'll be honest to say I don't have the answer. So don't be shy. If you have a question, I'm here.
Here's what we learn: when there isn't questions, it means you did a tremendous job in explaining everything that you presented.
or that people are just like, I needed to, and this is fine too. It was a lot to digest. And so I would say this is why we've shared this with Zach. Yeah, that's 35 slides of content. It's a lot. And so again, I don't fear, take the time, go back and look at it. Zach's writing notes, I know. And then also just within Command, there's a lot of great information on these tools and how they collaborate together. And by the way, too, if you have something down a week from now, you can ping Zach. He knows where to find me. These two guys know where to find me. They find me wherever I am, actually. We're friends. So like, it's also, if you're like, you wake up in a couple of days and you're like, oh, I really wish I would ask Scott that. Oh, okay. Well, Steve asked a question. Okay. Do most leads turn into buyers or sellers? Ooh, that is interesting. Seller leads have become, I think they're the holy grail. I think what we're seeing is that the advertising of the listing is leading to seller leads, more so than just consumers looking to find an agent to put them in a home. So I think the way to think about that is that most of what we're seeing is that action is turning into seller leads, where your presence is getting the consumer who's thinking about selling their home to go, hey, wait a minute, that person is selling a home. They've got that listing, and it's leading to a little bit more on the seller than the buyer side.
Yeah, Scott, I want to add also, John, I apologize, and I'll let you jump in as well. Sellers online show up as buyers first, is what we're seeing. Think of it this way: if you've got a client who owns a home, they're not even going to consider selling that house until they start getting curious about what they're going to replace it with. And so online seller leads typically show up as buyers interested in a particular listing that you advertise. And yet about 60% of those theoretical buyer leads also have a home to sell. So they are both seller and buyer leads. John, I apologize for talking over you.
No, that's just what I was going to say too, is that, you're going to ultimately get a lot of buyers because they're just looking at houses, but those buyers are sellers as well. A good example of that in our region, we just had somebody that spent $30 on an ad, got 103 leads, found a buyer and got them into contract, who also needed to sell their house, and got them into contract on that as well too. So this agent picked up a buyer and a seller from one client off a $30 ad and put, I think, 27,000 in GCI pending. Not bad.
Yeah. Julia, I see you raised your hand.
Hi, yes, I just had a quick question. When creating an ad in Command, I know you can choose to target certain audiences based upon interest. My question is it better to let the system do its own thing and not try to target certain audiences? Which method is going to give the ad the furthest reach in terms of exposure?
So this is my take. Interest-based, so I've been at the company for 9 years. So let me zoom back. The best way and the most effective targeting we've seen across any multitude of businesses is using your CRM to target and to find more people compliantly who look like those people. So if I closed on a house last year, you want to find more Scots, there's a way to integrate your CRM, which has, obviously Command has great CRM functionality, in a custom audience to find more people who you've already talked to and or find more people who look like the people you've closed. My take is that when we put too much into our systems, we sort of constrict delivery. So if we think about just the sales funnel, it begins to narrow. So if we're only looking at people who are starting to put a ton of interest in, what you'll see is that audience will probably start narrowing. So I'd play with it and say, if I put 3 or 4 interests in, is it making a huge dent? Am I losing a huge potential audience? If the answer is yes, take it out, let our systems find people based on their actions. If not, I think it's fine to put in. I think just look at the audience tools. There's one in Command and it'll show you how big or how large your audience is. And if you see it drop significantly, I'd say pull it out, let our machine learning find people more than the interest-based targeting. Ooh, I love Christine's question. I'm going to nerd out. Any chance we'll have Facebook Messenger via command at some point? I want this. So the answer is hopefully somebody gives me a Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year's, whatever gift, and we get that done. I would love to see that happen. I think that is a huge component of ways in which we can tie this all together. So Christine, great question. As you can see, probably by the way I just popped up, I'm passionate about finding a way to do that. So hopefully more to come.
So you're saying there's a chance.
There's a chance. That's all we need.
There's a chance. I just have to, I think it's like anything else. We ask a lot of your product teams because the internet is rapidly changing. So it's like, I've got to always balance between how much and prioritization because they're great, but like too much is like, hey, thanks, Scott. I don't have time to do 55 things. Can you just keep it to 30? So this is a passion point on my list. Sorry, Anthony, I know your hand was up. I jumped in, I apologize.
No, thank you. The last question was great too, and I do have to work more on the CRM components. But my question is, in one of the slides earlier on, it talked about the carousel ads and different types of ads. Do the Facebook algorithms prefer one over the other? Is there a better format of an ad?
So the quick answer is I believe carousel ads work better. Here's why. I think one, it's a opportunity to tell the consumer a larger story, no pun intended. I mean, it's literally, we've become addicted to the swipe on stories and other platforms. So I think, if you've got more images that can tell the story, great. I do think what I would always recommend to all of you, and Anthony, this is a great question, is test and put a little bit of money towards each, a single image and a carousel. And then when you see whichever one is resonating most for that property, turn off the one that isn't, move the money over. So if you have your $10, we split it 5 and 5. Let's see, is the carousel ad outperforming? Oh my gosh, it's 3x the leads. I'm getting just so much great kind of feedback from the consumer. Then turn off the single image ad. And then flip side, right? Sometimes just a single image ad works. I think property matters. I think curbside appeal matters. I think if you have homes that have, what's the word I want to use? It has a pool. It has all these features. One image isn't going to tell the story. I would then use the carousel, right? If it's super like, we've got a lot of things we would want to show, or you just show a single image, see how that's performing against the carousel. And then again, the point is to get their information, to have a conversation and maybe start the conversation. Can I show you more? So a little bit of a non-answer because it's not as black and white as you would think. So I'd say test, see what works by property, deprecate what's not, don't spend the money when it's not, move it over to what is, and then move forward from there.
Thank you. If I can tie in one quick question, I know everybody else has got questions too. On the same note, are there different calls to action that are better than the other? Learn more versus call me versus whatever the case is?
Most use learn more. I think that's the predominant one. I think what you want to make sure in your copy, make sure people know that you're going to reach out. I think there's sometimes with the lead form, I think some consumers think there's something behind a gated wall that only if I send my information will I get XYZ, and then you're calling and reaching out. I think let them know, would you like to hear from me? Or I'm going to contact you, contact me. There are ways in which you can say learn more, but also set the expectation that you are going to connect with them. I think the other thing is if people are not connecting through phone numbers, find the name of that person and then hit them with a Facebook Messenger note from your business page. Hey, Zach, I saw, and you can do it in a number of ways. I saw you submitted a lead. Would love to talk to you. Do you have questions on, 123 Main Street? Those are great ways to, I think, tie that all together, have a conversation.
Love that.
Thank you.
Scott, a question came through in chat a little while ago about video.
Mhm.
What's your recommendation on using video in ads? I know there's theoretically like a cap on the maximum amount of time that you should be using for videos and ads.
Yeah, so there's best practices. So I think, again, be your own researcher. What are you going to sit through a minute-long video? Probably not. So we recommend 15 seconds. But video in Facebook is really down to motion, sight, sound, and motion. So you can use the slideshow. So slideshow ads come up as video. You can use moving captions as part of video. So I think people think with video, Zach, that I need to go out, I need to hire a crew, I need to have great music, I need to have a Steven Spielberg production. What I recommend with agents going out and talking about their community, that's straight up video. Have somebody just shoot you, or you put it on a selfie stick or all that. But I think for the listing, you can use different tool sets that actually have wipes or different things, and that comes across as video. I would keep it to 15 seconds, especially in feed. Think about stories, the little blips are 15 seconds long. So there's a reason we do these things, because that's what the consumer is saying. Yes, I like that. Trust me, if we saw that they would last 30 seconds, we'd have it last 30 seconds. So short. I think the other thing that's really important is you want to have a conversation with people. The ad is just the appetizer to the main course, right? You're not going to be able to sell, in the Bay Area, guys, right? $1 million homes by 4 or 5 images. What we want is the consumer to go, that interests me. That's interesting. That person has an interesting point. You want to use the ad to connect. And so I do think you don't need to have a 5-minute video. You just need to have a really good thing that shows people why they should look at this home and contact you, and be short, direct to the point, then have a longer conversation.
Yeah, Scott, I agree with you. And I think that another perspective is you don't want to have a 5-minute video anyway, because ultimately, and this is what I teach the agents in our region, is that you want to treat the ad, I like how you said appetizer, I call it the movie trailer. The ad is going to talk about the highlights of the house. It's going to be what's going to get you excited to basically leave me your contact information. Because ultimately, like a movie trailer, we're going to show what blows up. We're going to show these amazing, exciting scenes, but we're not going to give away the plot. You need to buy a ticket to the movie to see how this plays out. And that's the way I try to teach people to approach ads in the text content. Talk about the backyard entertainer's paradise with the built-in fireplace and barbecue pit, the boat dock, all that other stuff, but don't talk about the bed bath, the square footage, the price. So you don't want to give away the plot. They got to buy the ticket to get that, and they're going to click learn more to get that.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. People still go test drive cars at dealers, even if they take delivery at home. I think that's another correlated point, which is I'm not going to spend a bunch of money and buy a car and I haven't been behind the wheel. Same here. It's to start a conversation. It's to start a relationship. It's to get them out to see things they may never have even thought of seeing. Or, hey, I really wanted to have a conversation because I like the way you listed John's house and I'm going to put my house up for sale. So it really is the icebreaker for the conversation. I think the movie trailer analogy is spot on, John.
Well, and ultimately, if I say in the ad, this is a 3-bed and Zach wants a 4-bedroom place, he's not going to, now he knows that house doesn't work for him. He doesn't click learn more and he moves on, and I never get his contact information. But Zach sees that house and sees all the exciting things, and he says to himself, man, this seems perfect, but I don't know if it has 4 beds. I got to click learn more to find out. And then now I have the ability to tell Zach that doesn't have 4 beds, but I know this other one that does. And now I can still continue to potentially capture him as a client.
I also think one last thing, guys, on we hear a lot about cost per leads. If you get my information, and look, we all want to sell fast. We're all in I'm a salesperson. We're all sales, marketing, and executives and professionals. But if it costs you $2 to get me in the door to have a conversation, even if it takes 60 days, I'm still a $2 lead. That investment that level never changes, right? The cost to acquire my information and get in conversation. So I think that's another important point is, we can deliver the name and the contact information and the consumer to you. From there, it's really, how do you have the next set of conversations and the next set of, all the great training, obviously you guys do at Keller. So like, I think that's an important point, I hear these stories. Well, this person bought a $2 million house off of an Instagram ad. The Instagram ad got them in the door. Trust me, there was a conversation to buy that house, right? So I think that's the other thing that is really important for people to understand. Zach, you are on mute.
First time on Zoom. Long-time listener, first-time caller. I did put a link to a Google Drive and someone said it didn't work. So I put another link in there. If it doesn't, I promise we're going to get this resolved for you today. That link will be working and you will receive notification from Zoom with the link as well. Okay. John and I are going to spend just a little bit of time showing you some best practices. Here's what we know. We need a digital storefront to reach our community and to be hyper-local with our consumers, our sphere of influence, and our leads. Oftentimes, the question is, what do we say when these leads come in? Or what do we say to our consumers to interact with them and engage and be local with them? That's where smart plans come in. So in Command, I click on smart plans and I'm going to take you to the library of smart plans. A lot of you already know where this is. This is also an important time to note. Every market center in Northern California, Hawaii region has what we call a market center tech trainer, dubbed the MCTT. Your market center tech trainer is fully capable and aware of where everything that we're showing you is today. So if you have a need for support and to go through this slowly, I'd reach out to your market center tech trainer and schedule time with them as soon as possible. What I want to share with you in the library is a way to search for smart plans by author name. I want to show you one that's some really great smart plans by a gentleman named Brian Leverett. So when I type in Brian Leverett and search by author name, you're going to see a lot of really great smart plans. Here's one called the Easy Button. This one actually has bundled together 3 different smart plans, a set of emails, texts, and calls. All the templates of what to say when you make the call or what text message to send out or what to put in the email is all built in there already. I would urge you to take that action item that Scott shared with you earlier and maybe enhance these SMS messages that might get fired out through Twilio, through the smart plan and Command. I would take that messaging that were built into SMS and use it in Facebook Messenger, right? Your consumers are there. We shared a stat earlier today, about 70% of your sphere of influence is on Facebook every single day. They're probably on Facebook more than they're in their email. So leverage Facebook Messenger to connect with your sphere of influence. So that's a really great one. Another thing to search, instead of searching by author name, when you search by smart plan name, look up Keller Mortgage. There are several really great smart plans that were created around Keller Mortgage and Keller Covered. These are really great value adds to connect with your local community to save them money. Just throwing it out there. There's lots of things you can do with all of this great information. So smart plans. We just released a really great feature inside Command yesterday that actually allows you to connect a smart plan to your Facebook ads. Shortly, I'm going to show you some best practices on building a Facebook ad. We're not going to go through it step by step on today's call, and yet your Market Center Tech Trainer can absolutely do that and probably already has training on your calendar next month around Facebook ads. However, you can now connect a smart plan to a Facebook ad. So every lead that comes from that Facebook ad will instantly be put onto a smart plan, significantly decreasing your speed to lead and follow-up communication and building that rapport, because as Scott said, getting them to raise their hand by clicking on the ad is only the first step of the journey. They're not going to hire you as a realtor just because they clicked on your ad. It's the relationship that you build and follow up and the rapport that happens afterwards. I wanted to also then go into campaigns. Campaigns is our applet that's designed to help you lead generate. And there's two major aspects here that we're going to talk about. The first one is social posts. Social posts is 100% free. This is a great way to start filling up your digital storefront that Scott was talking about. I don't know if you knew this, the Keller Williams International Marketing Team has actually put together what's called quick posts. John, I know that you like the quick posts as much as I do. Where do they find quick posts when they come into campaigns and go to social posts?
So you just click on social posts and then you scroll down and you see on the right-hand side where it says quick posts. And then if you look down, there's the video campaign, but below that we have social posts, and you can either choose one of those two. If you highlight over that shuffle button, you can also shuffle those out so that you could find something that might be a little bit different. Now, one of the things I like to point out on this is, Zach, why don't you click on one of them that might give some national statistics? Because one of the things that Zach and I like to talk about or to teach is that you want to become that hyper local neighborhood expert, that local real estate economist of choice. And while that's great that post says, talking about the US, what would it look like if I am somebody that maybe doesn't like to write posts? Maybe I'm not an English major, although, by the way, I personally actually am an English major, right? But if you're not, you can go in here, take one of those pre-written posts, and then just kind of plagiarize it just a little bit. Kind of like when you were in school, right? You took something that was already written and then you just kind of reworded it a little bit to make it sound a little bit more like you. It's kind of the same thing here. You're going to go in and let's change this from national to local, right? So where it has the percentages on things that are happening nationally, what does it look like if I go into my MLS and I pull up the local numbers? Then I can really create more of a localized feel to the posts that I'm doing and really engage with the people in my community and my farm, because I'm providing them with content that applies to them versus, say, nationally. Because I know, a quick point, one of the things that KWI did when they were studying landing pages is providing information at the citywide or the zip code level. People stayed on those websites for about a minute. But when they did landing pages at the hyper-local neighborhood level, I mean, and we're talking about still the same city here, but when they went down into the hyper-local neighborhood level and gave specific information on neighborhoods, the average time spent on those sites or those landing pages jumped from about 1 minute to almost 5 minutes. So that's significantly more sticky and more engaging, and then will potentially get people to read, respond, and reply to your stuff. So really simple, easy way, just take what's already written there, replace the national stuff with the local stuff. And then one other thing that I would suggest doing is get rid of the image that is in there as well, and then find something that's a little bit more to the local, to your local market, so that you can then again make that much more meaningful to people, because it might be an image that they recognize, or a neighborhood that they recognize, or a business that they recognize, and again, that'll draw them in a little bit more.
Yeah, these quick posts, think of them as your easy button. You click the share button and post, schedule out the post. The easy button isn't always the best button. In fact, more often than not, the easy button is not the best or even close to the best option. So take that extra step and switch out any national statistics with your very hyper-local, your community-based statistics, because that's what this is about, leading with local, and then leveraging your digital storefront to tell the message and be the professional that you are, be the surveyor or the purveyor, That's the word I'm looking for. Purveyor, thank you, of truth when it comes to social media. Thank you, John. Okay, in the Google Drive, you're also going to see a link to my notes. In these notes are some support articles on how to create a quick post, in addition to creating a Facebook ad and setting up a smart plan. I have a couple links here to some marketing examples. I want to open these up just really quickly. I made each of these touches in designs inside of Command in under 1 minute each. So here's a great example of what's called a neighborhood snapshot design. This is designed to be square because it optimizes on mobile the best. Your consumers are spending 4 hours a day on mobile. So coming up with content that's very specific around a local community like Laguna West, and then turn around and grab a snapshot, either specific for that community or the zip code where that community lives, throw your branding on it and post it to social media, put it in your digital storefront. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that occasionally you can actually post this to your personal page as well. However, you should not be posting your business related stuff to your personal page too often, or even often at all. You should keep that in your digital storefront. Follow by the rules, the policy and guidelines of Facebook, and put this stuff in your digital storefront. It's where consumers are looking. Scott shared 3 out of 4 of your consumers are going to your business page to find out who to do local business with. Here's another great example. It's just a community picture. This was pulled right out of designs and had what locals say about a specific community. This is just a really great touch to get into your social community. I don't know about you. I made this in under a minute. It looks fantastic. In fact, there are realtors out there that pay advertising agencies $250 to $500 just to build one touch like this. I built it in designs for free, 100%.
And Zach, that took you how long?
Yeah, under a minute. It probably took me about 15 seconds, to be honest. All I did was open it up and I threw my logo on it and downloaded it. Here's another great one. We know that we've got a really great special with Keller Mortgage right now where you and all of your sphere of influence can refinance their house. Those that haven't done it, it's a tremendous opportunity and a value add. There's great content inside designs. So I want to show you really quickly how to get to these designs. Inside Command, you're going to click on Designs. That's our marketing applet inside of Command. Now I can hit the plus button at the bottom right, big green plus button, and then I'm going to choose social because that's what we're talking all about. Again, I would always recommend that you use the social square templates as opposed to social wide. Why? Because it shows up better on mobile. And so you've got all sorts of really great social square touches all around your mobile app. There's that marketing piece that you just saw with the little street and what locals say. Super simple. Also, down at the bottom left, you've got pivot shift ahead category where you've got really great engaging posts that you can drop your logo onto and post to your digital storefront to be relevant, remind people you're in real estate without having sales breath, if you know what I mean. There's just so much great stuff in here. You've got lead generation templates like client love, event invitations. You can turn around and promote maybe a pie giveaway or a special event that you're hosting, maybe a drive-in movie night for all of your sphere of influence. Post that onto your business page. And then at the drive-in movie theaters, walk around to every single car that you've invited to these drive-in movies and chat with them and ask them if they have any referrals that they'd like to have invited to next month's movie night. And yet, of course, you're going to sell them a house, or better yet, list their home and sell them another one. So that's designs. There's so much great stuff. John, did I miss anything? Is there any templates that you absolutely love that you point people to?
Not necessarily. The only thing that I'll point out here is kind of, as Zach, you said, you use Square because it works better on mobile, and everybody just needs to remember where are our consumers? Our consumers are on mobile, which I don't think was really brought up earlier or yet. If you're not utilizing the Keller app for your clients, this is something that you're going to really, really need to do, because ultimately we do know how much time people are spending on mobile. And if you don't have a mobile presence, they're going to billow and they're going to go out there and they're going to use a competitor's app, which could then keep them away from you or pull them away from you. We're trying to keep people in emotional proximity to us so that they'll use us when it comes time to do a real estate transaction. And if we're sending them someplace where we're not providing a value for them to be able to do their home searches, then we're missing a big piece there. So
I'll
make sure
also
go ahead.
jump in just really quick, and this is a little bit nothing's top secret, but we're doing from the Facebook end a lot of work with the Keller Williams product teams on making sure that there's robust data. So when the consumers use the KW app, that then also fuels the machine learning and ability for us to find more customers and consumers who are like those who you've already sent to the app. So growing your own homespun network in the app is important because it allows us to build more data modeling, completely compliant, nothing nefarious, but basically, to John's point, if you're sending them to a competitive site, Keller Williams can't use that consumer signal to enhance your advertising on command. Frankly, you don't get it anywhere, right? It leaks out and we can't get it back. So I think that's another piece to this puzzle, which is we're really thinking about as the internet changes with a lot of the announcements with Apple and others that you might have read, this becomes even more important just to the health of all of our mutual businesses. So again, we're working on this. We hope to have some advanced analytics deployed by year's end, but I think it's another just piece of keeping them in your ecosystem means we can build better advertising products and outcomes for you guys when you use command.
Yeah, and then one other point to that too, Scott and Zach, is that ultimately, and I think this goes back to a lot of the discussion today, people don't just buy houses, people buy neighborhoods, they buy communities. Yes. And if we are utilizing our app and in our marketing and in our ads and in our social posts, we're selling that community in addition to homes, it's going to make us stronger. And that's one of the great things that our app's able to do because of our relationship with Nextdoor, is to be able to provide really hyper local, specific neighborhood information, Yelp reviews on local businesses in the neighborhood, what people that live in the neighborhood say about their own neighborhood, and they're not getting that information in any place else. Most apps allow you to search for homes. Our app allows you to search for homes and search for communities.
Yeah.
Yep. Love it. Last thing I want to show is just a couple best practices around running an ad. This is a Keller Williams listing that I found on my agent site. And I'm just going to take this address. I'm going to go back over to command and I want to run a campaign. If you're ready to run your paid ad inside of command, which we learned from Scott is the most efficient way to generate leads online as realtors, especially as Keller Williams realtors, we can actually come in and create a social ad, and then we can advertise the listing. That is the most effective social ads that we're seeing right now generating leads. You got to give it a name. So I always just paste in the address and then run that ad. Scott said it, run it on Facebook and Instagram. Make sure that you're leveraging all of the platforms where consumers could be showing up. Historically, I would tell people focus on Facebook because it was the best cost per lead. But here's the problem with my strategy that I've been telling people for a long time. You're missing out on those consumers that are going to be on Instagram and aren't on Facebook. And guess what? There's consumers that are on Instagram and Facebook, and yet I bet Scott will tell you they actually behave differently on Instagram than they do on Facebook. There are people that will click on something on Instagram that wouldn't on Facebook. Yes, Scott?
Absolutely. And I think we've seen it. I mean, just look at the commerce stuff we started talking about a little bit. I mean, go in and experience some differences between Facebook and Instagram when it comes to some of the ads and how easy it is. There's definitely a difference between, I think, discovery and implementation and or buying, if that makes sense, like from top to bottom of the funnel between the two.
I love that. So I just typed in the address and pulled it up. It already grabbed the property description, put in a headline, make it local. Again, don't put in bedrooms and bathrooms into that headline. I might even consider pulling out the square footage and bedrooms and bathrooms that was in the MLS description to make sure that you're not giving them everything. You can shuffle through a couple different descriptions. I'm going to use this one, and I'm going to change this from videos because this particular listing doesn't have a video tour or a virtual tour. So I'm going to put price there. That call to action, when they hit learn more, they're going to view photos and price of this home because online leads want to know what that price is when they're clicking on a property. So tell them they're going to get it the moment that they click on it. Scott recommended a carousel ad. This is where you add additional photos right out of the MLS. Grab a photo, make sure you're showing them interior photos of the home. Can they imagine themselves living in this house? Show those great room concepts, show the really unique features of the home. Grab several of those photos and it'll instantly create a carousel ad for you. Now, when you go to your Facebook and Instagram settings, you're going to choose your page. This is where you're going to always want to use the Facebook lead generation form. Scott had mentioned that because of our partnership between Keller Williams and Facebook, you get to use the Facebook lead generation form. That's huge. Don't send them directly to a landing page because you're missing out on that tremendous opportunity of the frictionless lead form. And then you're going to send them to your listing, and you're actually just going to grab your URL right off of your website for this listing and just paste it right into this website URL. Last thing I want to show you before I let you guys go is this new feature that just released yesterday. That's the lead settings. So now this is in general availability. You can actually come in and auto apply any tags that you want to. You could have a custom tag called online lead or follow up today or whatever you want that tag to look like. More importantly, you can instantly put them onto a touch campaign or a smart plan to follow up using SMS, email, and even tasks to remind you to call them. Again, please don't hesitate to take those scripts or those conversations out of the smart plans and leverage Facebook Messenger. It really works. Your Market Center tech trainers are here to support you. And don't forget, inside that Google Drive that I shared earlier, we're going to upload the recording. You already have access to Scott's incredible slides and all the great data. And I have a Google Sheet in there, a Google Doc with my favorite notes from today's presentation, in addition to links to those marketing touches that we gave you, how-to articles for everything that you need as well. Last question did come through in chat, and I just want to answer it. Scott, is there an optimal frequency for ad posting?
Yes, we look at 3 to 4 times a week, or making sure that the ad is out 3 or 4 times a week. I think one of the big misnomers, Zach, is that, it's like I put it up once and, I'm going to hit everybody. I mean, I think if you look at other forms of advertising, you're frequently 3 to 4 times a week seeing the ad. And so frequency matters. I would also say, dovetailing off of that, one of the questions I've gotten in the past is how many times should I be posting organically? I have a kind of a gray area answer, which is, not every day. The algorithm doesn't punish you. Remember, the algorithm works off of our people engaging with your content. So that is like, say something relevant. Don't say it if it's not relevant, or if it doesn't have an intention. Just saying it for the heck of it doesn't normally work. But if you can try to post, between 3 or 4 times a week, it does mean that you're filling your digital storefront, you're staying top of mind. Again, though, if there is a week where you're like, look, I really don't have anything new to say, it's okay. The world's not going to collapse. It's far better to have intention behind what you're posting versus like, I must hit 5, Scott said I have to hit 4 this week. No, if it's 2 and it's relevant, we're good. If it's 5 and it's relevant, great. If it's not relevant and it's 1, do it once. I think that's the biggest thing that I would say to you guys.
Love it. Ruben just posted an Outfront article that's really recent with a lot of relevant postings that you could turn around and use for your community in your sphere. John, thank you. Scott, thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
Likewise.
And Zach, really quick, is one of the things that I think we should let people know that one of the things Zach and I are talking to KWU on right now is doing a Connect Live session that's going to really do a deep dive into how to really localize your smart plans, your posts, and become that hyper local expert. Yeah. So that's one of the things we're working on right now. Should be sometime on Connect Live, maybe end of July, early August, somewhere in there. So we'll make sure that we let you guys know so that you can do a deeper dive into some of the things that we talked about today.
Awesome.
All right, Northern California, Hawaii region, take care.
Thank you, everybody.
Make it a safe holiday weekend. Go out there, take territory, and connect with your local community. Scott, thank you. John.
Thanks, guys. Happy holidays.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.